Indie Girl. Did you read all of Hubbard's writings or know of anyone who did? I also wonder if any Scientologists ever stop and think, what the heck have I got myself into? Okay, I did not read all of Hubbard's works, and I'll tell you why. I don't think anybody has. Not all of them. I don't think any one person has. And here's why. A lot of people don't necessarily know this, but L. Ron Hubbard was prolific beyond prolific. I mean, the guy wrote thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of material. But all of that material is not publicly available. In fact, a great number of issues and writings that he put down are never going to be publicly available. He wrote all the policies, or a lot of the policies, for the Church of Scientology to operate. He wrote all of the technology of Scientology, all the books and things you see on the shelves at the churches of Scientology. If you go in and you look at them, it's an impressive amount of work. It's all bullshit, but it is still an impressive amount of work, okay? It took years and years to write all that stuff down, and he revised this stuff constantly, and you have some of these issues and policies that were revised 4, 5, 6 times over the years. You have all these books, you have all these lectures, thousands of lectures, but in addition to that, at the higher levels of the church, with the C organization, he also wrote policies and guidelines for the C organization. And these were put into issues called flag orders. And there were also central bureau orders and executive directives and other secretarial to the executive directives. I mean, he had all kinds of issues, issue types, okay? And they had different color codings and whatnot. And a lot of those issues are confidential. They're contained in packs that only exist on the Sea Org bases, or they only exist at upper levels of management or upper levels of Scientology, like at that international base in Hemet, California. He wrote a whole series of issues about cinematography, they're called Cine executive directives, and they're how to do lighting, how to do filming, how to do color, all this stuff for how to make films, right? Because he considered himself a film expert, and he wrote down all these guidelines and policies on that. I've never read any of those. I just know they exist, right? So, and then there's other advices, they're called, which is when Hubbard was in hiding and couldn't be seen or perceived to be running Scientology, he wrote issues, and they were called advices because they were only advice, right? Yeah, sure, they were orders, but he called them advices, and a lot of those are confidential, and they're very, very specific to specific situations. Like there's a series of advices that have to do with the Los Angeles organization and how to run that organization, and there's probably other advices about running management and that sort of thing, or running Golden Era Productions, which makes all the films, right? Does all the dissemination of Scientology. All of this stuff received, attention from him, and writing and lectures that he gave on how to run this stuff. So when you ask, have you read all the works of L. Ron Hubbard? You just go, knowing, the extensiveness of it, there's almost no, it'd take you years to get through all this stuff if you had full access to all of it. And at the various levels of Scientology, they don't even know about some of the things I just told you about, right? Like if you go to one of the city churches, right, one of the orgs, like the one here in Denver or the one in New York or the one in Miami, they're not even going to be familiar with all those issues I just told you about, because they never even heard of them, right? So they don't even know. They just know that Hubbard wrote a lot of stuff to take care of everything, right? So no public Scientologist is ever going to be able to read all this stuff. And I don't know that any Sea Org member who would have full access to everything he ever wrote and said ever had the time to read everything he ever wrote and said. So No, I don't think anybody has. And as far as the answer, what the heck have I got myself into? Yeah, of course. I think a lot of Scientologists ask themselves that at one point or another. And sometimes that question leads to them getting themselves out. And sometimes it leads to, the cognitive dissonance of them going bzzz, and, no, okay, head down, must comply, must obey, must agree. And so they just kind of carry on as Scientologists, duping themselves that they're doing the right thing.